Mr. Chairman and members, for letting me appear with you this morning to make a few brief remarks. I'd like to begin by thanking each of you for the work that you've been doing in the interim, and I want to thank you in advance for the hard work that you will be doing ahead next session. As members of this committee, you have a very challenging task, developing a balanced, no new taxes state budget in the face of a daunting shortfall. Balancing our budget is going to require some hard choices, and I appreciate you taking the time. Better than most others. We can all be proud that our business climate is viewed as perhaps the best in the nation. Yet we have not been immune from the effects of the national recession. Comptroller's Office will be testifying before you shortly about our revenue situation. We saw some positive growth in April, but this only comes after more than a year of declining sales tax revenues. The combination of declining revenues and a growing population will make our job more difficult. Over the next few years, Texans will face higher federal income taxes and other increases in federal levies, including for Social Security and Medicare as a result of federal health care reforms. We also face huge new mandates from Washington that will, over time, force billions of additional state spending on health care. Our work on the budget will begin in an environment of uncertainty as the federal government grapples with spending and tax measures to reduce the federal debt. This makes it even more imperative that the state of Texas cover its budget shortfall without a tax increase. Increasing taxes would restrain economic growth and hinder our ability to create jobs. Come next session, I'm confident that we can make thoughtful, responsible decisions to balance our budget, but this will require tough choices, significant cuts in some areas, and perhaps totally new thinking in others. I know you've already begun this hard work, and as you continue, I hope that you will look at every option. Perhaps you'll consider the impact of imposing a blanket moratorium on all new programs and services that require general revenue funding, or possibly ways to improve how the state collects all of its funds. Should the state stop issuing bonds because of the ongoing costs associated with debt? Because so much of our general revenue budget goes to personnel, I hope that you will find creative ways to contain personnel costs and limit payroll growth. You might consider the impact of freezing higher level salaries or limiting new hires to only those essential to the public safety and welfare of our citizens. 42 other states have implemented unpaid furloughs to save on salary costs. Others have moved to a 4-day work week at some agencies in order to save on operating costs. I hope that you'll look at what other states are doing and determine whether any of those options would be feasible here in Texas. I'm not advocating for any one of these choices in particular, but I do know that every cost savings idea must be on the table. We will need to be resourceful and look at every possible way to make our state government more efficient and effective. As leaders, we state employees and our citizens understand that we cannot afford business as usual. We're going to have to make significant cuts, and the 5% that we requested was just the beginning. It was absolutely necessary, but not nearly sufficient. I am confident that in the long run this process will make our state stronger. As we emerge from the recession and begin to vibrantly grow again, and we will, making the right decisions now will prepare us for continued growth and prosperity in the future. Years from now, we should be able to look back at this time and not just think of the budget challenges, but the smart choices that we made that put our state on track for a more prosperous future. I'm grateful for the work that you and this committee are doing, and I look forward to working closely with you to achieve the balanced budget that our Constitution requires and that our citizens expect. Thank you again for letting me take up the first few minutes of your hearing, and have a great, productive, and creative day.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
Thank you for giving us an outline of what we're going to be looking at for the next year.
Thank you.
You just referred to the Foundation School program, which may not have as much money because of property tax declines. Let's quantify that. And first of all, so we know what we're talking about, when property tax values in the local school districts decline, one thing is we won't get as much in Robin Hood payments. Is that one thing you're talking about?
That would be one thing, yes.
Okay, and then what else? Why else would we see less money coming into the foundation school program?
It'll be everything else being equal, depending on what your decision is as far as what is the total dollar amount that is to be spent on public education. What I was talking about is that the local school districts will be able to contribute less to that if their values don't increase to a degree that relative to either your expectation or relative to the prior year's collections. So given a particular level of expenditure, if local school districts aren't able to come up with a certain share, then the state will have to make up the difference. So that was what I was driving at.
Right. Do we know, or can we find out from what is the maximum tax rate now without an election that local school districts can charge? $1.11 or
I do not know.
$4, correct.
$4. And how many are all school districts at $4? I mean, is anybody less than $4?
No, there are districts that are not at $4. A lot of districts, I don't know the balance. A lot of them are at $4, and a fair number of them have gone to $1.17.
Right. And so, with declining property values in many districts, at the same tax rate, they're going to be bringing in less money, right? So that may cost us more.
Yes, to degrees that those monies are equalized, yes.
And so that's where you're talking about the foundation school program.
Yes.
May have either lack of money or not enough to do the same thing we're doing right now.
Perhaps.
Would there be any other sources besides declining property tax values which would reduce the amount of Robin Hood payments that the districts make to us, coupled, and then also districts taxing at the same rate will be getting less money, so we will need to send them more money? Any other source that you were referring to?
And then the other driver would be just increased enrollment, and as you might expect, with both the economy lagging as it has for this biennium and perhaps into next, gearing back up, there's been increased caseload in Health and Human Services, primarily Medicaid and CHIP programs. As you've heard from HHSC Commissioner and ERS and TRS, there are also increased cost pressures in healthcare, both in Medicaid and CHIP program and in state and teacher retirement systems, and in correctional managed healthcare in our prison system. Couple that with, as John mentioned, declining property values in this biennium and perhaps pushing into next, there would be, absent any decisions on your part, increased cost pressures in the foundation school program as well. So it's possible that these combined could lead to a significant request from agencies when they do submit their appropriations request this fall.
So that could add up to between $15 and $18 billion.
Well, you're looking at the essentially 11 or so billion in use in one-time revenues, if you will, if the federal money doesn't recur, and the balances, plus the cost pressures, plus revenue perhaps not coming in as previously estimated. So that's a number that has been out there, and that's a reasonable number.